let's return to tonight's top story. Joining me now is Nationals leader David Littleproud. David, thank you for joining me. It's been a big few days. How are you feeling about the way that everything has panned out?
Well, disappointed. It didn't need to get to this juncture, and it's tragic, to be honest. But the reality was that when Sussan Ley accepted the 3 resignations of our senators that voted on conviction, voted against a bill that would have taken away the free speech of many Australians, that the National Party room did not accept and did not get to ruminate nor forensically look through a joint party room, got to a position we couldn't support it either, for them to be sacked effectively meant the end of the coalition. It didn't need to get to that point. We made it very clear that because of the shortened timeframes, that we weren't afforded the normal processes of the coalition of the shadow cabinet going through the bill in entirety, and then the joint party room also being able to debate it. And the reality was that we had every right as a party room to come to our own sovereign decision, and we were all going to vote against it. And I was going to vote against it if I was given that opportunity. And the reality was that we stood together in solidarity, and those 3 senators did what our party room's determination was. And I made it very clear to Sussan that there was no need to accept those resignations because proper process wasn't adhered to, because timelines didn't allow that, so they shouldn't be penalised. But when that happened, unfortunately, we were forced, and not me, but our party room. And I see there's plenty of commentary that I'm the bad guy here, and I couldn't care less. But the reality was we got to a determination collectively as a party room, and we made the right decision. But we can't get to a juncture where 3 of our senators were persecuted because of the values and beliefs of the National Party. We can't be forced how to vote, and we didn't believe in that. And we didn't have to resign. But Sussan Ley accepted those resignations in the full knowledge that if she did, then that would effectively break up the coalition, which we didn't want to do. And that was expressed both privately through words, but also through letters to make sure that it was fully understood.
Clearly, Liberals, senior Liberals, have a different version of events here. You might have seen yesterday our chief anchor, Kieran Gilbert, spoke to multiple Liberal frontbenchers and they said that you were, quote, a pathological liar, that everything Barnaby Joyce had said about you was true, that you, quote, flat out lied, there's no other way to put it, that you are paralysed by fear. And he was also told by other senior Liberals that at no point did you indicate that the Nationals would oppose the Liberal position, and that in meetings you had told senior Liberals that your concerns had been alleviated. Is any of that true?
No, it's not. And it's sad that even someone like Kieran Gilbert, who should have some integrity, would read out comments from unnamed sources. I think journalists who read out texts from politicians who aren't prepared to put their name to it have a responsibility before they put that on air. Kieran Gilbert should be a more professional journalist than that.
Well, it is a pretty common. It is a common practice. It should be said. I mean, I guess.
But it shouldn't be a common practice. With all due respects, Caleb, my point is it shouldn't be a common practice. That actually is just more about gossip journalism rather than proper journalism. But let me put this quite clearly. We were up front, so much up front, that if they didn't believe that the National Party had a problem with the hate speech elements of this and the freedom of speech, why did they send both Michaela Cash and John O'Doniam and Andrew Wallace to our party room to try to appease our concerns? I think it's pretty obvious that this is more about backgrounding and the lazy journalism about trying to discover who's prepared to actually...
Backgrounding goes on in every single political party, and I'll defend Kieran for airing the grievances of people in the Liberal Party, because in the context of the story that has happened, it is entirely legitimate. And, I'm sure backgrounding comes from your party and the Labor Party and every other party as well at various points in time. I guess the point is, though, that you are suggesting that what they have said is totally made up. All of this is a lie.
Well, that's where I was getting to, Caleb, just to validate that. If the National Party didn't have any problem with this legislation, then why did we have, on more than 3 or 4 occasions, the shadow ministers appropriate to this legislation come and try not only to explain it, but then get further concessions on that legislation. The reality was they knew that we had a problem with it because we had it amended 2 or 3 times, and we had those shadows ministers trying to give the National Party room comfort. So to make an assertion that there was no concern about the National Party having a problem with this freedom of speech element of this bill, when their own shadow ministers sat in our party room, I think actually demonstrates that we had expressed that. We had expressed that concern and those issues around that element of the bill. It was made very clear on Sunday that we were very comfortable with the migration element of it, but our party room after the Sunday party room meeting that we had very grave concerns about the freedom of speech impingement that we needed to work through. And that's why we're up front. That's why those shadow ministers were called, those Liberal shadow ministers were called to the National party room to explain and to actually, to their credit, I've got to say, Michaela Cash and John O'Dunham did an outstanding job in getting amendments for us that got us closer to getting some comfort. But I think the actual real proof is in the validity of the actions of what the National Party did. We have acted with utmost integrity all the way through. And that is why those ministers were called to our party room to front it, to explain it, to get other amendments. And that's why they knew, quite openly and honestly, that we had an element of concern around that part of the legislation.
Has this, do you think, to some degree been a free kick to the Prime Minister, the implosion of the coalition? Because he certainly sees it that way. He said today on the ABC that he's not even concerned about the chaos in the coalition or ex-coalition anymore. How do you form another government on the right side of politics without a coalition?
Well, and look, we're not closing the door on a coalition down the track, but the reality is that when we weren't afforded proper process to be able to express our concerns, to debate that in a forum with even our Liberal colleagues, and that is the normal process. When that wasn't afforded, then obviously there was an avenue.
We haven't got long left, David, but would you agree that it has been a bit of a... It's been a bit of a blinder of a week for the Prime Minister in light of all of this, because it's taken all the heat off of him and all the talk is about you very quickly.
And that's the point. It didn't need to be. There was an out that was provided by the National Party that basically said this wasn't proper process because of the shortened period. So there was no point in persecuting 3 National Party senators who had the courage of their conviction to vote against an impingement on freedom of speech. Why would you take that away? There was actually a win for everybody to say, look, it was a different process. Those senators respected the views and expressed the views of the National Party room that we couldn't support that bill. It didn't go through the normal processes. So why actually, when you were told that it was going to cause a problem, go forward and sack those 3 ministers? That could have been averted, and that's the sad and disappointing part of this.
And this story isn't going away. David, we'll keep in touch. Thank you so much for joining me tonight.